this back and forth. We can cinch. And you're recommending I really don't do that because I'll probably end up accidentally just pulling the blade right through the edge of the leather. Turn this leather of where to go. Garrett suggested we go a little bit farther than that because this is basically it's 1/4.
Yeah, so this is a 6.5 foot kangaroo hide bullwhip, and it has a shot-loaded core.
Basically our hinge. It's going to be tightening down right where we drilled our hole, and the razor,
which makes it easy to cut the lace.
These little points, if we tried to pass that
Until we reach the full width that we've had it set to. It's right there.
Pretty easily. Now we need some all thread. It's pretty loose, and then we just need it wide. All right, we've got that hole cut out. It seems to slide
an edge here, and we're going to take our blade and just kind of slowly push it in
through our lace cutter. Is something that is going to be very important as of an inch wide. But because we don't want the all thread to bind on this thing, we don't want to bind to the all thread.
A lace cutter, which makes it easy to cut the leather laces.
Long oval shaped hole sort of thing.
I'm taking off these legs because the legs, so if we just cut this.
All right, sort of ellipse-shaped hole cut into it. That's going to be a sloppy drawing, but blades and some hardware to assemble an adjustable lace cutter used for making strips of 5/16 inch threaded rod. And what we want is for that rod to be in this block. We'll use a 5/16 inch drill bit to open up this front portion of the hole so that we can.
That obviously is not going to get very long, thin strips, so we have to cut circle in order to get the length of leather lace that.
It down using our all thread and the wing nut. We're going to lose these little pointy bits on the edges. Bomb to get in the club. If you missed our last video or want to watch it again, just click up here at the top. Click down there. Thread without, it doesn't have a ton of wiggle room, it moves.
A 12-pot overlay, and we're going to be making that today.
All right, I don't know.
Just put a little bit of super glue inside the hole, and that just helps to lock it in place even more.
Drill bit for this. And what we're just going to do is set up a sort of brace and then
without worrying.
What do we still need to do? Lace into a fully functional whip. So make sure you come back for that. Hey guys, thanks.
Go flying.
Good. We want it to be able to float and slide back and forth. So let's keep using the 5/16 inch.
Well braced on the table, but I can have the edge that I'm working with free, and I don't have an
extra binding. Sounds like a plan. All right, so it can take a little bit of effort. Same thing on the other side.
This kangaroo hide you're ever going to
find. It should come to clamp down on the razor blade, and it will be able to slide back and forth until we fix it down in place with the wing nut. So we've got.
Beautiful.
Can we test it out?
Yep, time to test it out.
Let's test it out. Why are we using Kangaroo? And tighten.
Kind of hold the entire apparatus together, and we're going to need some threaded rod. Now, as we start cutting,
convenient for what we're doing.
We put a blade in it.
We need to put a blade in it.
I usually like to use about an inch of blade. Kangaroo hide trimmed up. We have a very nice.
All right, Garrett, that was awesome. Tell us about this whip you were using.
With a 4-plat belly, a cowhide bolster, and
that works. Show there's strips among some other things, right?
Exactly.
How do we get
things along the way? But
so don't throw this away, but don't use it right now.
About cutting through your strand.
Well, I might still be a little bit wet because I felt I needed to dry. If you want to see what the internet thinks that you should watch next. That's it for now.
Be careful with fresh blades because they cut through the leather like butter.
We're going to try and make that. That's how it's really done. And so this kangaroo leather whip is made from this kangaroo leather. All right, very cool. So we have a wider hole through this lace into a functional whip. In our next video, Garrett's going to be showing us how to. My arm's getting tired.
You want me to take a turn? You can still get some good use out of it.
Okay.
Okay, so now that we have the.
And a little over 2 inches wide, I'll go for about 2 1/4. Which is good because we need this to move just slightly in and out. We're not going to go all the way down. We're not removing a piece, but we're just making a slot that our razor blade can fit in. To grab onto the all thread and just twist it onto the wood.
Pulling out an angle helps to keep tension on the blade.
That fits down into the hole. We can measure. See if we do it through the block, we can see pieces measured out, and we're going to cut those out using a bandsaw or leverage against our hinge.
Basically no other leather that's going to be stronger.
I'm so strong. See now someone else's hole that we've drilled, it would be really stuck and we wouldn't really be able to squeeze this down in our block.
About that, yeah.
And then our smaller block is going to have
They're usually pretty lace cutter. Sometimes it gets caught on this corner.
So we've got our
kangaroo hide. We can now begin to cut the lace. I like to cut lace on that we need. In order to do that, we make around the circumference of the kangaroo hide.
1/4 is 4/16.
It's better to err on the side of cutting a little bit too thick because we can get very good lace out of that. But
do we want to try? And it stays firmly in place. Brilliant. Like that, you think?
Yeah, a little over twice as much as the distance right there.
To start out, we need to cut a couple of pieces out of our board, and to decide the size of that, we then drilled a larger hole that goes. We try and build the little mechanism that lets us do that.
Exactly. Grip inside the.
So I've got too much here.
Yes. So we need to break off. That's what's find is going to be about this big. So you can see it doesn't have a very smooth outline around the hide. So we're going to need to do.
This means the all thread should bind really well to the wood here, but float in the drill hole.
Table in my way. So to start cutting, we're just going to start on. I have the kangaroo hide.
Turn a sharp angle. We just need it to be like a smooth transition.
Okay, so we're going to be cutting around the circumference of the hide. But as you can,
leather that can then be woven into a leather bullwhip. To get started on our lace cutter, what are the All right.
Sometimes razor blades.
Do a little and we can clamp it down nice and really tight. Now at this point, if we put our all thread into this, let's add on about 1/2 inch to it. So we can just measure like that about how long we want this to pinch our razor blade, would we?
No.
Okay, so straight into our block. Now we don't want to cut the whole piece. We need all thread cut to fit into well inside this hole to know what's going on. Keep circling through.
Yeah, just kind of keep circling through. That pulling through and pulling at a little bit of an angle.
This piece of the wood, and then when we loosen this,
that kind of notch will get taken away when we resize the strand.
The blade is going to be secured above that, so if we've got a little bit more space, we've got a little bit more. Got our blade, and we want to drop this down until mostly
cut the leather, some wing nuts and some washers.
Then you're going to want to use some pliers.
Corner of like a table.
Get to this from a kangaroo hide.
Yeah. So the biggest
slit down through part of this block.
Corner off at a 45-degree angle. It'll help to cut the leather a little smoother.
Doing the work. That's the key. Want like a little bit kind of sticking up out of the top. That's maybe 1/4 inch, maybe just super tight, so it's never going to come out. So we're going to drill our hole. Now have fun, be safe, and see you tomorrow. The blade holding it firmly in place. We can adjust how thick we want our lace to be attached to it. This mark was my first estimate. The rod is 5/16. That makes But here's the basic idea. We drilled
or a workbench or something like that.
So this portion, and then it narrows down to 1/4 inch for this portion. Thanks for watching. If you're not a subscriber yet, just hit the. So I like to. We'll go right here through this block, and it'll tunnel through the wood. Then we'll clean it up with a file if we need to. Locked onto it. So you can't see too cutter to cut by moving this piece in and out. Garrett, is there anything? Now we can slide this.
Stretchy, and it's not the optimal leather to use.
Pretty nicely on our all. What we need to do is that cut going for, I don't know, about length the same as this one's width. So we're just going to keep that.
Just a piece of scrap wood.
Scrap wood. A couple of razor blades. Move freely on the all thread rather than being locked. Makes the rod a tiny bit larger than the drill bit, so it should be in there really tight. So we need to drill
to be holding the lace that you're too early. Want to give it a try?
Sure. I like gliding through this leather super nicely, and it's pretty easy to keep a uniform width on it. And that go a lot faster. So to hold our razor blade in place, we're going to we're going to spiral cut a kangaroo hide, and we're
going to start just kind of a little bit of a taper and get wider and wider and wider.
And now we just twist here on the side, and that will pinch down. Acted by a sudden and fairly intense hailstorm. So
what's about these blades is you can break them off to whatever size.
So we're planning to put the all thread right here. The blade is going to come up somewhere around right here probably, and get any lace off of this piece you just cut, or do we want to go straight into the circle?
There's nothing that we can do. We can take off this corner here, because as the leather is running by, they'll
go. Very cool, very cool. This lace cutter seems like it is working really well. Here's the basic idea. We're going to take a piece of... So now this piece, we need to drill this... So at this point, we've got our tube.
make it smaller. We can't make it bigger.
Yeah, I think I've made it all the way around one. To get that hole to bind onto the edges of the all thread,
we're gonna need a
can't really
curve around the entire, some razor blades in order to act.
And then the second piece that we need to cut is actually going to sit on top. What most of those things mean, but it sounds cool and we're gonna learn about it. And
yeah, it actually kind of gets a little bit easier as the blade dulls just a little bit.
Wider than that 1/4 inch. This is our 5/16 inch hole.
we're just gonna drill holes down in sequence, making sort of a
You get a little bit of resistance. It makes it easier to go a little bit faster.
kangaroo hide for our whip making.
Kangaroo hide is the strongest leather in existence. There's
Enough that we can fit our washer on top of it. Okay, we got briefly distracted around in that.
we want to keep these scraps because we'll use them for a little kind of rinky.
Top of this one, and I think this hole and into that one. All right, we can take our drill bit hole using an even 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches, something like this over that, right?
Yeah, the longest one about 1/4 inch.
All right. Once again, this is some order, and then let's go for maybe 5.5. If you don't have bandsaw, any other kind of saw will work pretty well. It's just very cool.
It's really important.
Anything else we want to do to this to really make it work just right?
So there's one more option.
So now we've got 2 adjustable points. We can loosen on this portion up here. It won't. Probably getting near the bottom there. Just gonna figure out what seems like it'll be easy to hold.
Yeah, so we're not going to get in kangaroo hide. Is trim it so we have a very smooth curvature around the entire hide.
Smaller drill bit. This is a 1/4 inch drill bit. Little block on the top just slides back and forth. That hole will be cut out and it will fit around the all thread. So the all thread pieces, and let me know if I've got this right, the idea of how this is going to work.
So it has enough. It's nice. And if you get excited, you'll just pull right through the leather and end your string.
But just push harder. Cool.
Piece cutter in the blade, so you get a more straight cut. You have to
Most of it is hidden. We only
put my thumb kind of on top to help keep it.
drill a hole into the block right here, and we need to drill a hole in the block right here. Do I do anything special when I get back to the starting point, or do I just kind of, so it feels like I could hold on to? Let's see, so yeah, to fit easily in my hand, to give me a good grip,
A hole that goes all the way down through the block, about like that.
supplies that we need. To here to be level, and it's all the way off. How far down? About into. We've got our bandsaw, and we've got this jig set up that will hopefully let us cut perfectly. But we're back, and it's time to continue with our build.